So, aside from breakdancing becoming an Olympic sport, this year, what sort of inspired you guys to focus on the 1981 breaking battle between the Rocksteady Crew and the Dynamic Rockers?
Um, I think for us, it was, we just went through a 50 years of hip hop celebration where, kind of every story was told in every different way and rehashed and trotted out again, you know what I mean? And for us, when we were approached about this project, it seemed like we found something that people missed. You know what I mean? It was one of those like things where I like to talk about this moment is almost like the Big Bang moment for breakdancing, and kind of for hip hop as well. You know what I mean? It's really the first time that this art form comes out of these Black and brown communities and is seen by the larger public, and put on a stage at Lincoln Center, which is, for better or worse, an arts institution that gives things an air of legitimacy, and it was just a story that no one knew about. So we loved being able to tell it.
Yeah. And it's also just a way to honor those OGs, that came before us that uh, either we maybe haven't heard of as people slightly outside of the breakdancing community, um, or just having a moment to sort of highlight their achievement and how they ultimately feel about the progress of breakdancing and where it's going.
Got you. And to speak on going for what you said, like highlighting, um, given I don't know if you guys are aware or anything of that, but like given the recent nature of people talking about the loss of physical media or even
Mhm.
recently, like online media, and highlighting the people that you want to highlight in the documentary, how did you source and select the archival footage used? Because it's very good quality.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing about telling a personal story with the people who were there. You know what I mean? It's like they were able to provide us with a lot of stuff, and stuff that frankly people hadn't seen before. You know what I mean? It got really exciting for us to kind of create this Rashomon like retelling of this battle in a way where you see all these different angles and different camera qualities and different things like that. And then we had a great team, like the team at ESPN Films, really put the feelers out and went out and searched and like is in basements of places looking for like old reels of 8 millimeter, and there's a wealth of stuff. We could probably do a whole other cut of movie of footage that's not in there, you know what I mean? But that's the exciting part of documentary filmmaking, right? It's like we're unearthing stuff, like we're searching for the stories that haven't been told, and we're both big film nerds too. So it's like, I think that there does need to be a preservation of this stuff and scanned at the highest quality and streamed forever. You know what I mean?
For sure. And then from a narrative perspective, we knew we wanted to really kind of focus on this moment because a lot of documentaries that you see in terms of what Jam just said about things being rehashed is you really get to spend time in a single moment. And because we were trying to live in that moment, I think that it inspired the team to like dig into this very specific time and place, um, which they were able to unearth some amazing stuff. So,
Got you. And living in that moment, right? Are you able to share any, behind the scenes stories or challenges you may have faced, interviewing those that were present, in the battle?
oh man, they
Uh,
still feel that beef. No.
yeah.
Watching it in the room with them all together.
I mean, what is the I think our favorite things of like just interviewing them is like you kind of when you're interviewing documentary subjects, there is a backbone of a story we're trying to tell, right? So there are some crossover questions and like the wildly different answers that you would get when you're asking about the same event, it like creates this and we try to use that to our advantage in the film. It's like we don't really necessarily want to come down on a certain side of who won. Was it Rocksteady? Was it Dynamic? It's like we want to show you how they felt about it and let the audience decide, you know. And it was important for us to be able to recreate as much of the battle as we could from the archival, but also get their opinions of how it went in the moment and how they feel about it now. And I think that's one of my favorite segments in the film.
Yeah, and the battle serves as almost like a chemical reaction for what blossomed from it, not necessarily who won. Who it's fun for us to talk about and debate about, and for those guys to go back and forth and to watch them, particularly grown adults, be kind of it's still like having feelings about
Yeah, they're still a little
um
tight about something that happened like when they were teenagers.
yeah, and it's just great. It's great to see because you feel a heartbeat in somebody when
Mhm.
there's that kind of immediate emotional connection to a specific moment in time. So we love that. We love uh, their actual points of connection, but ultimately it's less about who won and more about the fact that this flower grew and is still growing apparently. And uh, 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 talking with them, you're able to kind of sit in the pocket of each moment. It had its highlight moment in history. So every time that it was a big thing and corporate America wanted it, uh, there's another story to be told. And now we're at this second or third or fourth or fifth moment in the life cycle of breakdancing. And we all want to see what's going to happen. Is this going to be the thing that allows it to expand and stay and not necessarily be reliant on the commodification of of the genre, um, or what is the story going to be in the next 10, 15, 20 years?
Yeah.
And speaking of that story, like, what is it going to be, end it all off? Like, how do you guys feel about it now being an Olympic sport?
Yeah. I think to Bash's point, um, it's going to give it a life to expand. You know what I mean? And there are going to be kids who are coming up who this might be the first Olympics that they see, and they see breakdancing for the first time and it inspires them to want to do it. You know what I mean? It's like there's not really a bigger global event really than the Olympics. You know what I mean? That like from a thing that we're kind of all watching at the same time in real time, and very rarely does that happen, especially for sport. And I think to give it this platform and to have a truly homegrown American art form exist on this stage and inspire kids in Germany and France and Korea and Japan and India and you know what I mean, like all over the place. It's like that's wild. Like that's truly a beautiful thing. And that thing was created, it was written into the American canon by kids who look like us, who are black and brown kids from urban areas from New York, you know what I mean, who didn't have everything that a lot of people have grown up. And they created something that is going to be the Olympics. That's wild. It's like inventing track and field. Or you know what I mean? Like that's crazy.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
And there are definitely a lot of feelings about it in that space, but you have to assume that there are more people in the world who can attempt to do a handstand, a push up, you know, a pull up outside, to do a jumping jack rather than do the rings or the horse. Like people can't do that. They don't have access to that. They don't have, and that stuff isn't necessarily about having a crew or having friends or having a connection to like music and rhythm. And so there's an aspect of this that's very exciting. And I think for the people who have an issue with it going in, I understand their point of view after having made this documentary as well, because there is um, a feature anytime something like this is elevated to a certain level to forget the people who originated it, to forget the place that it came from. And what we want to hope this documentary does is make sure that that's a constant conversation, as opposed to this being the one-off documentary point, or it only coming around when we're celebrating hip hop, or when hip hop is celebrating its longevity, that it's not forgetting the moments of its origin as well by only celebrating the MC or only celebrating the beat makers. So that's my soapbox.